I noticed that you were one of a handful of Democrats who attended the memorial service for Charlie Kirk in the I guess it was in the rotunda the other day. Why did you go?
Well, this is a time where I think all elected leaders need to be thinking about how we bring the country together and lower the temperature. Clearly, we have seen an unmistakable rise in political violence over the last many years, and it claimed the life of Charlie Kirk last week in a brutal assassination. And we've got to draw the line at violence. So I think this is a time where leaders should be coming together, where we should be going into spaces where we're not maybe politically used to going to make sure that we're making a bold statement about what this country is all about. So I didn't show up at that event because of what Charlie Kirk stood for. I showed up at that event because about what our country fundamentally stands for, the values that we all share, the fact that we should be able to deliberate, that this is about how we make sure we're protecting free speech, where everyone has their voice heard, and where we draw the line at violence. There's just no space ever where that's acceptable.
Um, this event was to honor the memory of Kirk. It was not specifically about free speech or a unity rally of any kind. First of all, what did you make of the fact that so few Democrats and none of the leadership attended?
Well, look, everyone makes their own decision. And admittedly, it was on a Monday afternoon as people were flying into town before votes were being held. But I just think that I don't just represent the people who showed up and voted for me in an election or the people that I agree with politically. I represent all the people in my district in New Hampshire. And there are a lot of people that are hurting right now that felt personally connected to him. But I think we also have to recognize that regardless how you feel about politics, this is something bigger. This really strikes at the heart of our democracy's ability to function and of our free and open society to be able to continue. So I know that my colleagues on the Democratic side put out strong statements in the wake of this assassination, and that's incredibly important. And I'm going to continue to look for opportunities to try to show some common cause with colleagues of really diverse points of view. At the end of the day, we're not going to agree on a lot of things, but we should agree with the premise that this is a great country, that our ideals are worth standing up for and defending, and that there's just no place for assassination and political violence.
One of your colleagues, Seth Moulton, said that the president could show he's serious about wanting to stop political violence, quoting now, by overturning pardons he issued, by rescinding the pardons for the domestic terrorists who came to the Capitol on January 6th to kill cops, to kill Speaker Pelosi, to kill Vice President Pence. And he's gotten a lot of blowback to that. What do you think of what he said? Do you agree with it?
Well, look, I firmly agree that those who attacked the Capitol on January 6th were looking to overturn a free and fair election, and were bringing violence to the doorstep of the hallowed ground that is the United States Capitol building in a way that should have been offensive to all Americans. But I don't think that this particular moment is one where we want to be talking about one side versus the other. I think this is a time where the American people need to hear very clearly about what this country should be all about, the way our political leaders can model good behavior. That's incumbent upon members of the House and Senate. It's certainly incumbent upon the president too. This is not a time to inflame divisions. It's not a time to throw gasoline on the fire, as this president is accustomed to doing. It's a time to heal and bring Americans together. I hope that leaders of all stripes will be able to do that. I think we saw that on full display from the governor of Utah. More need to step up and own up to that responsibility.
What's been the reaction from your constituents to your position on this, your attendance at the event?
Well, I think people have been grateful for the calls for unity and the outrage that I've expressed against this act of violence. And I think that's how most Granite Staters feel. I think that's how most members of Congress feel about this. Well, last week, it was a dark day for our country. And regardless of where you fall on the political spectrum, it's an opportunity to do some soul searching and figure out how we can move forward. So We've received some positive comments from folks in New Hampshire. What's most important is sort of what comes next. How do we move this country in a direction where we can deliberate, where we can solve problems, where we have functional institutions here in Washington and in our state capitals that can actually deliver for people. That's why people get so depressed with politics in the state of play is they feel like it should be obvious where we can go and how we can develop a sense of common purpose, but nothing happens on the issues that they care about, whether that's the economy, whether that's healthcare, you name the issue. So we got to make sure that people are cut into the conversation, that they feel like their views are being reflected here in Washington, or at least that they're being listened to. And I think that's in the wake of this assassination, we got to figure out how we have more opportunities for people to be heard and to bring them into the conversation. The more we can do that, the more we can show them that democracy does work. We can translate the will of the people into action. And we can have a society where we respect our neighbors and respect our differences.
Have you received criticism for your reaction?
Well, I haven't looked at any comments on social media. Maybe if I did that, I would see some criticism. But I think we've received some positive calls into the office, and
Okay.
I'm not looking for any credit here. This is not what this is about. It's just about trying to find a way to navigate this dark political climate we're in, and hoping to find some light at the end of the tunnel.
Just a last couple of things here. There have been critics of Kirk, in some cases Democrats, who've received a lot of blowback for perhaps less conciliatory reactions. Seth Moulton says he's been inundated with death threats. The op-ed editor of the Washington Post lost her job because she quoted racist and homophobic comments that Kirk had made in the wake of his death. What do you make of that phenomenon?
Well, I think, again, this is a nation that is founded on free speech. I support people's right to be able to speak their minds as long as they're not hurting other individuals. That's part of what we do in this country. And so I think in the wake of this assassination, we need to have a greater appreciation for respecting differences of opinion and allowing people to continue to be able to speak their minds. But I think as an elected official, I've got a responsibility to try to cool things down and to try to bring people together and focus our attention on what's important, what's going for us in this country in terms of the gifts we've been given by our founders and how we can use that in a way to get some things done. So, I don't think this should be a time to, again, be inflaming or dividing. Let's figure out how we move forward, make sure that there's justice for the individual who appears to be very deranged, who committed this heinous act. And let's see how we can prevent future violence and make sure that this doesn't become just another thing that's a hallmark of American society. We saw this spin out of control in the 1960s and 1970s in the United States. We can't have this become just par for the course during this period. And it's incumbent on all of us, citizens and elected officials, to figure out a better way forward.
But Congressman, I can hear even like-minded Democrats right now hearing you say this and agreeing with you, but saying, but the Trump era has been a conscious effort to divide. Picking up on Moulton's point, isn't this sort of unilateral disarmament in a sense of, shouldn't we be pointing out what the genesis of this current climate is in the minds of some?
I think there's going to be plenty of time to talk about that as we get into election mode and approach the midterm elections. Look, that will all be part of the public conversation and discourse as we think about the kind of government that we deserve in this country, the kind of elected leaders that we deserve representing all of us as Americans. That has been part of the conversation, will continue to be part of the conversation. We, as elected leaders in Congress at this very moment, I think have a responsibility to try to heal. And we can do that while we still hold those to account who are taking our country in the wrong direction.
I hear you saying everybody owns a piece of this problem. And there's a saying from the 60s that I'm reminded of, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. Is that an accurate summary of what you're saying here?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all have a responsibility to step up to the plate.
Okay.
That comes with our oath of office. We swear that to protect and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And I would say that the kind of political violence that we have seen is certainly a domestic threat against our political system and our Constitution. So I do see this as a core responsibility. Again, I represent everyone in the state of New Hampshire, not just those I agree with. And this is a time where we have to recognize that violence hasn't just been going in one direction. It hasn't just been coming from one ideology. In fact, I think you could make the argument that the ideology of many of these assassins and people that are conducting attacks and using violence, that it's not coherent. We have to get past the sort of blame game and figure out how we can move ahead and reduce the incidents that political violence will continue to have in the future.